Okay. Yeah, you can open. Yes. Okay, sorry. Let me go. Can someone go and open the door for sorry, just we're having someone live participant standing outside the door, so we'll start as soon as he gets inside. So. Okay, so the lost lamb is here. Are we streaming on YouTube?
Yep.
Yes, we're streaming on YouTube. That's perfect. Sorry, because I can't see it when I share my screen, so that's why I'm being so repetitive. I always ask that. So, welcome to day 5, the last day of the first week. First, housekeeping as usual. Reminder that today at 8 p.m. Singapore time, if you are on a time zone that is feasible for you, please join us on Zoom, wear your GF t-shirt if you have one, and let's take a group photo on Zoom. So we will match the beautiful summary photos of the past years. Okay, and this is today's topic, application grammars. So what we have seen previously this week, we have talked a lot about linguistic syntax, and yesterday we talked about the Research Grant Library. So for example, these abstract shapes could represent the syntactic construction for a relative clause, or the syntactic construction for a progressive verb phrase. The syntactic construction could be adjective as predicative, and so on. But today we want to go on a higher level than that. So we have an application domain as our basic building block. So the domain could be something like basic needs of a human, like I'm happy, I want food. Maybe they're even causal, who knows? Or the application domain could be something like computational law, where we want to encode things like rule violations. Or the domain could be something like encyclopedic text. And what do? We have the abstract idea of the semantic concept, and we use this library of syntactic functions to implement that. So for some languages, they coincide. So if I say that I am happy, it's the same syntactic constructions in English, Finnish, German, and lots of other languages. Like it could be a verb in some other languages, so then you might use a different syntactic constructions. I happy is, in English it's I am happy. Then we have in other languages, we have different strategies of linearizing this abstract concept. So in English, if we have an abstract concept like to have name, then English would use one building block and German would use another building block. And what does this mean? So on the level of abstract syntax, these two, my name is and ich heiße, they are translation equivalents. Why is that? Because they relate to each other via the shared abstract syntax. The abstract concept to have name is realized in one way in English, another way in German. And then again, on the level of the library of syntactic functions, these two are not translation equivalents, because one of them is like there is some kind of possession and just a copula, and the other one it's a whole independent verb with like it's a content word with semantic context. To have name is a single verb. So on this level, these are not translation equivalents, but these two are because they relate via an abstract syntax. So this is like once after being following for a whole week, like this is like the biggest takeaway lesson that you should have from if you want to understand what GF is and what it can do and what's the point. This is the point. 2 layers. So that was a bit abstract. So I'm going to talk about one of the other classics in the GF world, the phrasebook. You have seen the screenshot earlier. All these sentences are from the phrasebook, and this user interface is this more of a conceptual authoring. What you see is what you mean. So instead of just like typing text, you first choose the concept, and then you can modify it. But yeah, so that's also good. I'm just showing this because I think it's a nice interface for this. So if you want to write your own application grammar, it's a good idea to start from some kind of semantic domain, which usually means you usually have some corpus of example sentences that you want to cover. So this is all for the domain of tourist phrases, for instance. You can start with like, yeah, I want to be able to say that the pizza costs €5, like, and also how much does the pizza cost and how far is the zoo? So you gather the domain, what do you want to express, and then you start thinking about it systematically. So if we want to put it in, when we want to translate it into GF grammar, we know that GF grammar has cats and funs. So let's think about the cats. And usually we divide things on sort of 3 layers again, all within the abstract, the application grammar. So we would have atoms, like these are the content words, like you want to talk about, if you want to say that the beer costs 200 Swedish crowns, or John likes beer, or John is married. Well, first of all, you need to have all of the building blocks. Like you want to have John, you want to have the predicate to be married, you want to have currencies, you want to have drinks. And then, so on the next layer, you want to be able to combine these. So more on that just in a second. But yeah, we want to say that John likes beer and John is married. And then finally, when we have this layer, this feeds into the highest layer where we choose we make this proposition into some actual speech act. It's like when we put together atoms like John, like, and beer, we can make it into a statement like John likes beer, a question, does John like beer? A negation, John doesn't like beer. Yesterday we were even doing commands, but that's that's another option what we can do. So that's like sort of, if you're not sure where to start from, like this is like very solid structure to just copy and use in your own. Right, so here's an example of some of the 42 categories of the phrasebook. So yeah, this is pretty fine-grained, because if we think of like all of these things, like location, person, place, kind, citizenship, country, currency, like these would all be just now phrases. But these are now different different categories here because they make a difference. But like if we think of this hierarchy here, like here we start from a phrase, which can be one of these things. And yeah, we can see like all these things would be atoms and then prepositions. That's where you combine this with sound good. Okay. So now if we talk about semantic control, in the Lexical Library, we can equally well say John likes beer and beer likes John, because this is a noun phrase and this is a noun phrase. And wherever we can put one noun phrase, we can put another noun phrase. So that's why we can say both. But in an application grammar, we would have this grammar does not generate the string John beer like John, because if we have a function like the function of liking is done with this function called a like, which takes a person as its subject and item as its object. And here we have a function that creates a person, and then we have a function that creates an item. So there is no way to say that John is an item or that beer is person. So that's how we do the restriction in GF. So then how about variation? If we look at this is the user interface, we want to say a sentence about someone loves someone, and then we don't just choose I love you, you love me. You actually have to choose, is it a male or a female or a stranger? And that's because this grammar has concrete syntaxes for 15 languages, and the goal is translation. So abstract syntax needs to encode all of the interpretations of I love you, you love me that are relevant in any of the languages. So it might be that actually maybe none of the languages has this four-way distinction, but maybe some language has a difference between male and female, and another language has a difference between a friend or a stranger, like informal and polite. So, but it doesn't matter, because when we parse in English, you love me, then we will get, because it's an ambiguous string, and then we will get all of the possibilities. And this kind of user interface is one way of making sure that you don't just accidentally say that, you don't say to a stranger, I love you, as if you were talking to a friend, for instance. And then the stranger will get very offended because you should have said vous instead of tu or something. And so it's not just okay, so I know I'm talking a lot about some of these content function words like pronouns, 2 days ago, talked a lot about this, but it can be anything. So here we have another example of tourist phrases, or I mean, just you don't need to be a tourist to order beer, but suppose that you're in Germany and you want to order a beer. So fine, so we can ask a question, you can ask, oh, what is please in German, or please in Swedish? And you would get the answer oh, okay, it's bitte, fine, or it's, oh, you say tack and then tack. But if you ask what is, okay, so what does tack mean in Swedish? Then you're well, please or thank you, I don't know, you need to give me the context. Or even more, this can mean all these different things. So it would be a very useless abstract syntax if there was just one abstract syntax item that corresponds to bitte. So here we have instead 3 that corresponds to bitte. Yeah, this applies to no language. All languages have ambiguities, and then when you have an application grammar, it compounds. So it's important to keep in mind. So all this stuff with Facebook, like that was written like 10 years ago. It's still extremely relevant. I linked to the paper later. But in the modern days, like most often we're using GF grammars as a part of some external application. So here is an extremely simplistic example of this. Is imagine that we're using the foods grammar for ordering from a restaurant. So first you need to choose if you want pizza, risotto, lasagna, and then when you choose pizza, the restaurant displays like what kind of toppings do they have for the pizza. And then once you choose your toppings, then we have some application code, Python, Haskell, JavaScript, anything where we have the API. And under the hood, that constructs this kind of GF tree, and that is finally linearized into this order confirmation. So what you see is just from this to this, but it actually goes via some Python, Haskell, GF, and then the linearization. And so the grammar that is powering this application could be a slightly modified foods grammar. Like now, instead of just saying that your pizza is vegan, we have also a possibility to say that the pizza has something. It has pine seeds. Oh, it has balsamic vinegar. So yeah, I've also taken the liberty to extend the lexicon because 11 years of boring Italian pizza gets boring. So now we're doing colorless green zucchini. All of these foods are items that they've given me on previous GF summer school conference dinners. No, that's not true, sorry. So okay, so why do we, if we look at the application, we have this string here, colorless green zucchini, and that seemed to be much more relevant tree than saying colorless vegan risotto. But like the approach here is that like we don't need to, like this GF grammar is completely agnostic to whether it will be like which ones of all of the strings it generates will be relevant. It's the job of the GF grammar is to generate everything, and the job of this application code is to, like, based on what the restaurant has in stock, it will then display only the existing options in this application. And so this is like for instance, like this grammar is extremely like over generating. It doesn't make any difference, for instance, what is a dish and what is an ingredient. But it's fine for this application because actually a lot of the heavy lifting is done in the application code. So I'm saying this maybe to might be a bit confusing because I just said that yeah we need to do a lot of stuff in the grammar. So just to be clear, linguistic distinctions must still exist in the grammar. So like in this case, this is wrong. If we want to be able to have plural, if we want to cater to people in groups, then this is not enough, because in English it's fine because like we can say that to both a single person and a group of people. But if we want to know the restaurant chain opens a branch in France, then they must choose if they want to generate Vuosivä pizza or mixed languages here, or tia pizza. And that's no longer something that you can outsource to the application code, because the right tree that you want doesn't exist. So at that point, latest, you need to go back to the drawing board and extend this grammar. So yeah, so if you have a grammar that, like, so this is an example of a grammar where all of the semantic plausibility is done inside GF. Like all of these categories come from the GF grammar, and then you just have like a helpful user interface that does this disambiguation for you. So like in here, like the other alternative would be that you would have linearization that says you, female stranger, love me, female, for instance. But that's not so good for user interface, so we do the distinction here instead. But like all of it exists in the grammar. That's the important point. And then with this point here is the message is that it's fine to overgenerate, because you can always choose what you want you can make it narrower in the application, but you can't just make up something that the grammar can't say. Okay. We're going to do some live coding soon, so these points will be a bit clearer then. So for those who are wondering, like, well, I want to write an application and I don't want it to be about foods. I don't want to be about tourist places. Well, this is my bold opinion that, okay, you don't need to, your grammar doesn't have to be about food, but if it's a simple tiny grammar, just, take foods, replace all keep the kind, item, the quality, but replace pizza, fish with some, whatever you want. Replace boring Italian with your domain and see how much it does already. If that is like completely inadequate, like you're like, oh, I want to make like lots and lots of more things I want to say, then, go to Facebook, keep, oh, I need to jump like very far back. Like go to Facebook, look at these, look at all the 42, maybe like, okay, maybe you don't need to have nationality, currency, but choose, you might have like distinctions of similar like granularity in your application domain. And you can take inspiration of how the blocks are built together. And then, yeah, you don't want to say about pizza and beer, that's fine, but you want to, on a more abstract level, you still want to combine atoms to propositions, and you want to make propositions into speech acts. Yeah, we're going to do some live coding where we take one of these and port it to another domain, maybe. So, okay, so how about things like abstract Wikipedia? I'm very excited about getting to contribute to that. So I think like the vision is where the normal GF, like we're used to this this idea that with this concept with the resource grammar library, that this used to be, this is the predication, this is progressive, this is relative clause, but like that's not so useful for creating encyclopedic texts. So the vision is that we would take make another layer that is still a library. So we can have a concept for birthplace. And then again, this birthplace might be linearized using different linguistic strategies in different languages. But thanks in this semantic library, all of these will be translation equivalents. And further on, we will have more complex predicates. Like this is the example of Marie Curie being the only person to win 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 scientific fields. Win 1 Nobel Prize in 2 scientific fields. We could combine this building block. So here is an abstract. This is also a complete mockup. So just maybe we have one function for only person to do something. And then we have all these categories of doing something where win a prize is one of them. And maybe we have also a category of prizes and Nobel is one of them. And then when we combine these blocks together, we get the only person to win, well, win a Nobel Prize. This is not completely correct, but like you get the idea. Yeah, so resources, so links to the things I've been talking about. So the paper about Facebook is like, if you want to make your own application, I would recommend to read and be inspired from this. I have some message on Discord. Oh yeah, that's the my presentation disappeared. Oh, where is it? Whatever. I was basically done with my slides anyway. So, so right, it's here. And then, so the other thing, actually, let me show you where to find it rather. So you go to GF webpage, and here under Learn More, you have this very hidden document called Best Practices. So it's a deliverable from an EU project 10-ish years ago, but I would say this is like for most part highly relevant. So the details about like what tools we have, like this is talking about the Eclipse IDE, which is very unmaintained. But if you go to the writing a grammar, like this is a good manual that will guide you to write your own application grammar. So yeah, and yeah, that's it. And then if you want to hear more about the colorless green zucchinis, I have a whole blog post explaining this thing. Maybe, yeah, I'm not gonna read this out loud, but this is like, yeah, quite some text about different ways. Like you're in the middle of, okay, so this, because this is highly relevant. Like you've written a grammar, then you add a new language, and then you're like, oh shit, I need to refactor. So this post is like what to do and at that point. Do we have any questions about what I've shown so far? So I'm planning to do some live coding, and if you have any, I'm very happy to get some audience input. Like I'm looking at you on Zoom and you in the classroom, so.
I'm always wondering about semantic information. Yeah, so You have the example of John likes beer and beer likes John. So how can you? So you said you had this extra layer that sort of prevents you from writing senseless phrases. Yeah. But,
Yeah.
so how could it be done to? It seems that you have sort of specialized application scenario where you can sort of distinguish correct or meaningful phrases from meaningless phrases. So, how could that be done in more, let's say, a general way? Because it seems that this is just tailored to one application scenario.
Yeah, so the live comment was that like all these examples with the beer and John is just tailored to one application scenario. And to answer that, yes, completely correct. Like that's, I mean, yeah, it's by design. Like it's, so if you want like a more general way of determining like word sense disambiguation, like let's take classic example, like, okay, so the bank, which can be the money institution or like riverbank. So if you say that I put some money in the bank, it's much more likely that it's the money place. And if you say that like I was sitting on the bank and watching the ducks, then it's like the riverbank. And this like, so like all of in these so these kind of methods, they all rely on lexical semantics, which you can either do, you can do rule-based or you can do statistically, which like data-driven is often the more robust way of doing these things. But like, I mean, okay, I'm kind of insulting now all these people who are doing rule-based lexical semantics. So I think like, if you want it to be general, you kind of have to have artificial general intelligence. That because it's
yeah. But I mean, so it seems to me that GF is so far mostly concentrates on the syntactic aspect of language. Are there attempts to integrate the semantic aspect? So to add a layer on it that corresponds to some sort of typing, let's say.
To the RGL
or like word which is a beginning of semantic information, where you say, well, you may have one word, but that word may have different meanings. But that is sort of still written down in the human language. But, after what we've seen yesterday from Wagner.
Yeah, so like I'm actually, so the question was like, is there any plans to integrate more semantics into stuff like WordNet? So I think Krasimir will answer that question. He will give 2 talks. Oh, am I still sharing my screen? Oh no, I'm not. Sorry. Sorry, just. So there are going to be 2 talks by Krasimir. One is, so this is the lexical library, multilingual WordNet verbs and corpora in GF. And this is about, and Meet the Grammarian is this new system for, like he has this idea of automating the writing of application grammars. And so I think like all of the application grammars usually involve a bunch of semantics. So I'm not quite sure what this will be about because it's a new thing, but like I think that these kind of questions are answered that. But yeah, so to go back to like saying that, well, this is like, okay, like this, that this is highly specialized, and yeah, like that's the trade-off between the precision and recall. Like if we have like again like the producer and consumer language, because if we do natural language generation, on a specific domain, like control natural languages, like that's the state of the art, is that either you get like very high accuracy and low coverage, or you get high coverage and low accuracy. So that's kind of that.
But I mean, I could bring up other examples. So what I always find striking when discussing with people speaking Slavic languages, they have enormous problems getting articles right, because well, there are no articles in Slavic languages like Russian, for example. And so typically, one could say that their use of determinate or indeterminate article is sort of random.
The question is about.
I often try to explain why I would prefer a determinate article in this place, for example. And that's very hard to explain somehow. And I just wonder what happens if you translate from Russian to a language that has articles.
Yeah, so the question was about the lack of articles in Slavic language, and it's hard to explain like why would you use like a definite article, indefinite article in something, and what happens when you translate from Russian. So okay, so if we could look at this thing here, for instance, like the phrasebook grammar includes the distinction between mass nouns and like mass items and other kinds of like mass and count. So if we just do the RGL and we translate from Russian, if we have a sentence like cat is on table, then we get all possibilities. A cat is on a table, a cat is on the table, the cat is on a table, the cat is on the table. So that's what we get in a syntactic resource. And if we have a semantic resource, then maybe the word cat would be entered in the lexicon as a count noun. So then, oh yeah, sorry, I was incomplete. I meant like we're getting 6, no 8, because we would also get in the syntactic library, would also get in English like cat is on table, because the cat can also be treated as a mass noun, because in GF we don't have the like in RGL, like it doesn't distinguish between inherent property, mass or count. It only has the construction, treat it as a mass noun, treat it as a count noun, and put an article. But yeah, so okay, so that's what we would get when we would parse in RGL. Cat is on table. It's any combination of cat, a cat, the cat, table, the table, a table. So that's 2 to the power of 3. But in an application grammar like this, when we parse Russian, cat is on table. So first of all, we know that it's either mass or count. Now we know that it's a count. So now we get only 4 options, because it's either a cat, the cat, a table, the table. But like we still don't know which one it is. So we need more disambiguation, where as a choice of a user interface, we could have something like this. We could say, oh, did you mean cat definite or cat indefinite, or rather like a cat, the cat, because that's more intuitive for English speakers. But
I mean, so when I said the distribution of definite or indefinite article is often random, but so in some cases it's you can explain when you would use the definite article, like well the object has already been introduced before. So now you refer to that. Yeah, so there's sort of a mental image of the object that you refer to, so you use the definite article.
Yes, so the question was about anaphora.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or like, I mean, yeah, or actually, no, sorry, anaphora would be like the cat, it. But yeah, definitely. Like, yes, if we want to say like we want to, that's definitely something if we want to control an application grammar, like that we want to keep track of. Now we introduce a cat, and the next time we refer to it, it's going to be the cat. So this is a very typical example of something that we would do outside the GF grammar, because like, yeah, if we have, let's go back to this again. So this application code would so this is written in some actual Turing complete programming language. So this would, let's say, like it has a variable, it has a state which keeps track, like, oh, we've chosen pizza. Okay, so pizza chosen equals true, like whatever how you do it in Python. Okay, some kind of state. And then maybe when the module that creates those trees would have like, okay, it creates maybe let's say it creates two trees. And the first sentence is, your pizza has indeterminate mushroom pine seeds, full stop. You can get the pizza will be delivered within 30 minutes. And then, so it's again, it's the application code that chooses for the first sentence some one determiner, and for the second sentence it chooses another determiner. So that's not something that we would do in GF. Like in this GF grammar, we would just make sure that both constructions are there and they are translated accordingly. Because like it's really like, I mean, honestly, like when you write GF applications, it's just layers upon layers on top of layers. It's like, oh, this is actually, wow, I should make a slide for that. I'm gonna actually, I'm super gonna write about this in my blog. It's like this whole summer school has given me so many ideas about new blog posts. Sorry, Henry, I will super get back to your question. Like let's wrap this up and then I'll answer your question, Henry. So the first layer is the resource command library, which translates just like yeah, so the resource command library has the lowest level, like syntactic operations, like, okay, so we have this, we have that. And okay, so already there are differences, because like if Russian doesn't, like just literally doesn't have words for the and then they are linear the same. But okay, let's take even some language, like maybe the word for the is linearized as an empty string, but pragmatically they would use the word this to express definiteness. So in resource command library, the maps to an empty string, this maps to, like in Malay, itu. Okay, and then in the application, like, so now we're talking about the GF application, which has some kind of semantic predicate, the pizza, and it would choose for the English linearization the underscore det, and for Malay it would choose this underscore det, because the application grammarian has thought that, okay, that's the way to express definiteness idiomatically. And then the third layer is the application grammar, which will then, it will control when do we choose the application grammar's definite and when indefinite. So that's 3 layers of information. Yeah, that's
yes, so when doing translation, you would go up the stack, so so it's semantic form, and then you would go down to produce syntax of the string of the utterance in the other language.
Yeah, like translation, like you have to like traverse all the steps. Like, I mean, this is the classic example of the like machine translation. Oh, that's a tiny image. Let's see if we find a better version. Large. Right, so I mean, like GF doesn't do it exactly like this, but this is like the abstract idea. Like, you know, if we have the stupidest machine translation just does word by word, and that's it. And then with smarter, it goes via syntax. Like, I mean, this is like a lot of different grammar formalisms can have one of these layers, but like, but yeah, like we can also like sort of see how the interlingual would be the application grammar, and the RGL would be this, or like maybe in this case, like even the interlingual would be the Python code that keeps track of like, okay, when keeps track of referring expressions. And then the semantic structure would be the application grammar in GF, which makes sure that we to express the pizza, we say like the pizza and pizza itu. I don't know if pizza is pizza in Malay, but like, yeah. But yeah, it's layers on the layers. Like, okay. Yeah, thanks for the question. Yes, let's get to Henry's question. Let A be B and C be D. Okay, so sure. So what I would do, I'm gonna go here. I want to do that. I remember correctly, I think we have some kind of cheat thingy here. Additional libraries. The formal module, the combinators. Oh yeah, we have also this like let's add. Yeah, so like this is like, if you don't know Reese's Crown Library, it can be kind of tricky to find things there. So like, but I think I remember that. Yeah, there's actually also the RTL source browser, so maybe I can use that instead of, I'm just used to grepping on my own computer. So source, where is it? RTL browser, that's what it's called. So we could go here. So usually like the documentation is in the, like the example sentences are in documents of the abstract. So that's a good thing to look at. I think I have a, so I would, so now I just kind of happen to remember that we have this, this structure. So it's in this module called idiom. And I'll do that. I'm just gonna open the random file in TMP. Sample GF. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna call this category like something like just thing. Okay, let be thing, yes. I'm using it, I'm just calling it S because I'm gonna be extremely lazy. Actually, no, let's make it properly. So I'm just gonna call it a phrase. Item, because that's more in line with the GF usual practices. So this is how we say, this is like we define an abstract syntax constructor for let something be something. And then let's make it also a phrase. And then if we also want to make a conjunction, so we can do conj phrase to phrase to phrase. Now let's make it concrete for that. So example eng. Copy this and change concrete example. Open. Yeah, so this is like it's so we can actually the tricky thing is that we have the RGL has some things that are not in the API because they were added to the RGL abstract syntax later. So let me double check. This is a bit. Is there? You know, it's commented out. I don't think it is there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna import the. So I've shown you previously how we open like syntax eng, paradigms eng, but now I'm just gonna open the idiom eng raw file. I have a blog post where I explain the core API and extensions, because like that's definitely a fact that there are lots of funds outside the API. I'm gonna paste this on the Discord. So I open idiom eng. Now I do link at. Let's just make it up. An item can be a phrase. Oh yeah, we also need to get some actual items. So let A be a line and B the middle point of the line. Okay. Let A be a line and let B. Ah, right. Okay. Okay, I see. Yeah, sorry, I should have read this more carefully. So, yeah. Oh, okay. I get it. I get it now. So that let B be the middle point of the line. So we're doing this. We're doing the like the ellipsis here instead of let A be B and B CBD. So, right. Okay, so I'm just gonna first show you the normal thing, and so the item. Yeah. Also open symbolic module. So yeah, we might need we might find something in the extension module for the ellipsis, but I'm gonna get started with the simpler thing first. So if you're wondering what the sim is, it's just a way to make NPs to strings directly. So see. be here. For the conjunction, we can just use the API directly. So oh yeah, okay, so okay, so well, this is a yeah, I'm there. So I'm a bit in a corner here because the imp p3 makes an utterance, and there is no conjunction thingy for utterance, but I'm gonna cheat because there is the one for adverbs, and I'll just use that because they happen to have the same lingot in English. That's oh, it's called MK adv, not called adv. This we're gonna do this cheat. Let's pretend they're adverbs. Now this is me talking about best practices. We can always cheat and do this. S equals p1.s plus plus and p2.s. Yeah, so okay, this is like highly questionable stuff, but like in practice, this happens all the time. Yeah, so about suggestions to rewrite this function. We're pretty off topic already from the application grammars, but yeah, that's if you're watching this on video, you can skip ahead when I start doing the actual things. I like answering questions, so it's nice that you ask. So your suggestion is something like this. So this is perfectly, this is like 100% the right approach for doing things, because like it's super brittle to have to do this in application grammar. So you need to like that's yeah, a thing like this added to the extend module would be the perfect thing to do, because then you can use this. So let you're saying it looks awkward. I mean, maybe we can. So I would probably generalize it to some extent, like maybe not like have it work for not just and, but any conjunction. But like this is, yeah, this is definitely sort of right approach. I think you probably want like this. So we could even yeah, we could even use lists there, but Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe you can use a list. So yeah, I think we could probably use the in the sorry, it's so off topic, but it's fun. Let's look at, there is a category in the extent that I'm thinking about. Yeah. No. See. This VPI is the one I'm thinking of. It's like that's if you made the type signature of this into a list of VP. Oh no, actually, maybe it could be some kind of slash category, because we want to like let A be a line, B be the middle. So right, yeah, okay. So I think like the VP is that can be the that can be a VPI, because like what we want to say is like A B B B C B D D B something. So yeah, actually maybe okay. So this is a bit. Maybe I'll the bottom line is that this requires changes in like a new construction in extend, and maybe we can go on a break now, and then when we come back from the break, I'll start doing my original plan, which is to work on some application grammar. But like this is like, yeah, I think this is a fair fair showcase that there are still a lot of constructions that the RTL doesn't quite cover or could cover by some ugly hacks. And then the right approach is to make a new construction for that. Let's take a 15-minute break from now and continue. I'll look into it during the break and I'll get back to you, because like I feel like this is not using screen time very efficiently. Just okay, so resume 10:18. Hello and welcome back. So Henry has gone to sleep, so I'm just gonna say quickly that. So what I would do, I would do sort of, if I want this to be in my application, and the RGL currently doesn't have this construction, I could do this kind of approach, for instance. So I've changed a bit. I will share this code later in the GF summer school repo. So I would use the advice that I gave myself, and I would split it in phrases and propositions, where phrase is something like, only at this level we say that let A be C, and here we just say that A is C. And that proposition can become, someone has, by the way, who has their speakers on? I can hear my voice echoing. Tech problems, sorry. Okay, so like we do it again with the 3 layers, where this is the speech act, proposition, and the atoms. So what we would then do is we construct just the atomic fact that, okay, so yeah, we construct a proposition of A being something in here. And then we would like to, like later on, we can transform that into a letter, like imperative-ish here. So and now if we want to have single or multiple things, I will use a list category on this level. And then what I can do is that I can linearize it into something custom. So I need to keep the proposition discontinuous. Oh, thanks. Oh God. Oh. Yes, I mean to be sharing my screen. I'm showing. Sorry. Thank you. Yes. So. Right. So these are the. So I divide this in. In the layer of atoms, propositions, and speech acts, where here we combine the atoms, and here we decide how do we want to say it. And this is more flexible because then we can add even another category, which would say is A C question mark. And so now what we need, this layer, because of the proposition layer feeds into the speech act layer, we often this might need to be discontinuous. So yeah, I'm gonna, so for instance, like this is now a bit hand wavy but like suppose that we have the proposition where we would want to separate the subject and predicate is in the case of, if we want to use the let clause, then we need to make it say A, B, C instead of A is C. And if we look at the resource kernel library, GF tenses /lang.gfo, we parse something as a clause. So I think we have lost the string, like we don't have anymore the possibility to choose from here cat, bee, and animal. Like we have all this inflection table, but they are all inflected forms. So yeah, this is something that this is something that is true for the particular implementation of the English resource grammar library. And yeah, that's one of the things that you need to work your way in. You need to do some simple grammars first, so you get familiar with the resource grammar library, and then you know what it contains, you know what categories to choose for something. Like in this case, we keep it discontinuous to build A, B, C. Because if it was clause, then we only have A is C, A is not C, A would not be C. So. And then, so I'm not going to do the full category of the list proposition, but like what we would do is that when we make the list, there we construct the string subj b thread. If we know that will feed into this let. And of course, if you can feed into multiple things, then we need to keep more options open. So this is going to be a bit complex. So I'm gonna just, for the rest of this talk, I'm gonna start with something simpler. So this is an appropriate first week of GFSS school talk. But it's a very good question, and like, yeah, that's something that you definitely run into, even when you think you're doing something simple, because the RTL is not perfect, not all things exist there. So I'll finish this grammar and I'll put it in the repository, so it's probably there in the afternoon or so. Now let's do one of the simpler grammars. Let's make five. So most GF grammars, application grammars, are either foods or Facebook. So that's which one are we choosing today? Let's see if there's anything in the chat. Any ideas for a domain? Should we do foods for computational law?
Yeah, let's do computational law.
Yes, okay, foods for computational law. Okay. Law.gif. Okay. Actually, so one more thing that is often good practice in application grammars is modularity. So I made this file comp law, but like most often it would look something like abstract comp law, and then I would not put all of these like whatever stuff here. This would probably just be like, this would be the top level module, where I would say, for instance, like base law, lexicon law, and then those two would be those would contain some of the more actual, like this might be the syntactic, well, maybe, yeah, syntactic structures, and this would be the domain lexicon. So just to, even though this grammar will be very small, I'm just going to show you this modularity. Let's make the slow. What do we want to say? This is a glorified foods. So this is a glorified food. So we had there in foods we have comment item, item quality find. Maybe we could allow ourselves something like deontic or modality, because this is like often an important thing in laws. And maybe we could also allow ourselves to have like actions and not just saying that the lawyer is, I don't know, allowed to do something. And that was already a two-place predicate, allowed to. So
this is, we could look into our PDPA case study, for example.
Okay.
So
yeah, so let's start with, yeah, let's start with a corpus. Yeah, so give me some sentences.
There's one thing like if there's a breach, the database owner or something has to report within a certain specific time. That's, yeah.
Okay.
If there's a data.
Okay, so let's breach,
an arbitrary sentence.
data leak.
A data breach is notifiable. Is a notifiable data breach if the data breach results in or is likely to result in significant harm to an affected individual.
Okay.
I got a shorter version.
Yeah.
Organization should notify PDPC as soon as practicable.
Okay, paste it in the chat. So.
Oh, okay.
So,
In the Discord or?
Whichever.
So Discord, which channel?
I put
It's on the, yeah, okay. Organizations should notify PDPC as soon as practicable. Okay, well, I mean, this is just an adverb, so like we can, yeah, okay, so this is like I would say that this is an atomic unit. So then we have, what we have is organization. Actually, no, sorry, organization should be a kind, of course. And we might want to make, we might want to make this a bit more like fine-grained, but let's start with this and see where we get. So now I think PDPC would be, that's something that is already an item, because it doesn't make sense to say this PDPC or that PDPC. And what can you tell me what entity is PDPC? What's the acronym for?
Sorry,
What's the acronym PDPC for?
Personal data, something.
Personal data, something.
Okay, wait, oh, yes. Personal Data Protection Commission.
Yeah, Personal Data Protection Commission. So that's not a kind because it's a proper noun, so we put it directly to item. But then we would also want to say, we will want to make, for instance, plurals. We want to make definites, indefinites. So if we in one context we want to say organization, and in another context organizations, then we put organizations in kind. And this organization, that organization, the organization. Okay. And now, so if we have the notify PDPC, I think we need to have some more predicates than just qualities. So let's do action. That's a good category to have.
So which channel do you put this in?
We're talking on the Zoom chat.
Okay. So, I don't know.
Action, notify PPC.
It's this.
And finally, we have this deontic here. So like in the resource ground library, there is a general there's a general construction that takes any verb complement, anything that has like any verb that takes a verb complement and makes a VP out of it. But here, I think in the context of law, deontics are kind of important. So let's make that into another category. Should notify PPC. And then let's just, so we like the really like the core of the sentence is this, and as soon as practicable. I feel that it's some kind of fluff. So let's put it in, let's put as soon as practicable in as an adjunct, which means like it's an optional modifier. So yeah, let's just say like, well, we can actually even, how about we repurpose the quality? We might, yeah, we might yeah, we might want to split them later on, but let's put that in the quality now. Okay, that's our starting point. So item, oh no, let's start from the lexical layer. So we have already a bunch of stuff here that are these are kinds. Organization, data breach, data leak, harm, right? And then we have something that is already an item. So that's the PDPC, because we don't want to say this PDPC, the PDPC, it's just PDPC. But now let's see what other things we can make into items. So, right? So we want to make plural item. And what else? Item. Let's make this. A kind, a kind, the kind is kind to. So this makes organization into organizations. I will ignore the long sentences pasted in the chat for now. As I said, this is. So we have some lexicon, and now let's add some actions. So this is I'm doing this in the foods way, and this is certainly not perfect. This is going to just be inadequate before we add anything, but this is like the first simple thing you can do. So how do we make an action? Let's see, notify. That would be, so we can make it into a function. It's not as versatile then, so but let's start from that because that's kind of simpler, because the trees will be very simple now. So notify would be item to yeah, that's our only action. Like we can also have something like then let's modify the, so now, so this is notify PDPC. And then we can, let's add the all the optional adjuncts. So mod action would be quality action. So notify as soon as possible. Then we can even change the order. Like the order doesn't really matter. It's just kind of for mnemonic reasons. Like it's in English, they would go in this order. So I put it like that. Notify as soon as possible. Notify PDPC. Notify PDPC as soon as possible. So this is the only place I'm using quality now. So I'm going to ignore the significant harm or anything like that. It's just we do this concrete effort syntax to cover this one sentence, and then we see how it breaks for others. So the untick would be the next. So again, we make the modal verbs into functions now. So shall, must, may. Oh yeah, let's make it should because that's what it says here. Should, must, may. Action to tick. And finally, we've covered these 5. So let's finally do the speech act layer. So this is now. Oh yeah, actually, no, we haven't completed the proposition layer. So in food grammar, basically the propositions and speech acts are kind of the same because there is only one layer there. So let's see, in this foods, we're gonna do the same design. We merge the propositions and speech acts. So we're just gonna call it red. Item beyond tick. That becomes a comment. Okay, so now we have an abstract syntax. Let's see what kind of, we're just gonna get some trees from it. So GF. Yeah.
Was it better in like whether we put the untick first, then item, or item then get to the comment?
The question was, does it matter here which is the order? So no, it's just like convenience, because I'm thinking in English when I write this, and in English the subject comes first. Oh, yeah. Actually, like I kind of realized that this is I even merged the lexicon with the syntax here. So maybe we will. This is okay. So I'm gonna change the name because like I had a plan when I did this, and then I just started doing like foods. So separating keeping the lexicon. So I'm gonna do several versions of this file. Let's make. I'm gonna put them in different directories. So I start with the simplest, then I refactor some more. No lexicon. Slow into no lexicon slash. So let's work on this now. And I'm just going to call this complo because this is like the whole thing. Everything is like there is no separation between lexicon and functions, because like all of these are like we have words like these, but then we also have like notify. It's actually a function. It's also a syntactic function where the word is like embedded. So the good side of this is that the trees look extremely nice. So if we go to no lexicon, GF, law, PT. Yeah, I need to put the start cut, of course. So like if you look at the trees, they look pretty nice. The organization may notify the data breach. Like it's just like every node of the tree except the spread contains some kind of it contains some kind of lexicon, so it's nice to read. Let's do right random. Yeah, I mean this reads pretty nicely. Like the organization may notify organizations. I could even just like name these the kind and plural kind. It's just the and plural. So now let's make a concrete for that. And now we're going to use RTL here, so no need to reinvent the wheel. We'll just use RTL and that's it. Open syntax eng in comment reference item no phrase. This is now actually adverbial because I just kind of reused this category for modifying notify PDPC as soon as possible. And again, kind is a CN because that may become a noun phrase through various quantifications. Action is a VP and deontic is also a VP. Red item deontic is now mk at mkcl item. If you wonder where to find it, the answer is here, RTL synopsis. Go close. Look at the constructors and we'll find this. Let's do the lexicon first. So organization is MKCN, MKN. I'm gonna ignore the rest for now. PDPC, that's already an item, so we can use MKNP, and then we have this category called PN. We look at this. PN to MP. So MKPN, on the other hand, is a paradigm function. So scroll. MKPN here. It takes a single string, so just MKPN PDPC. Kind is MKNP that kind, because I remember this by heart, but if you wonder where to find it, it's here in that. It's called this. It makes it into plural. So this is how you get it. I'll find the naming scheme is kind of like unmarked, marked. And this is singular, so this and mod action. And let's do the notify first, because this now involves like an actual lexical item. Notify item is nkvp nkv2 notify item, and mod action is it's already a VP, and it just adds the adverb. So you can see the order of the structure here. Here. I knew it already, but this, sorry, no, sorry, that was not this. This one is of course it. So it's we put the VP first and adverb second, and that gives us a VP again. So yeah. So let's see if there's something wrong. Syntax error. Oh yeah, I guess this one not yet. I'm gonna ignore the rest and just do the should. So now, where do we find that? The should is like to start with. It's a kind of, it's not just a regular verb, because it's first of all it's this VV category, and oh, this is a bit inconvenient because I need to go to this the special module called irreg-eng for irregular verbs, and then I need to make the verb into VV. So I'm just gonna cheat a bit, and let's do must instead of should, because must is already there. Must okay VP must VP. Yeah, but we can also like omit these if you want to, but I'm just keeping them because it's, I guess, more readable for beginners. Now we're still getting some syntax error. What's that about? Oh, we're getting an error because this is fun instead of Lin. So that's when you copy and paste, just make sure it works. So let's do, yeah, PDPC must notify the organization. Well, it's actually it should be the other way around. So an organization must notify PDPC. We actually now realize we didn't add the lexical item as soon as practicable. So let's add that as well. So what's our link at for quality? That's an adv. And as soon as prac is. Now, how do we make an adverb? That's a bit of a confusing maybe, because we have both syntactic and lexical adverbs. So these are all the ways of, like, we can make an adverbial out of other categories like preposition and noun phrase, but we can also make an adverb out of string, like here. So now we have mk-add in both of the modules, syntax eng and paradigms eng. We need to prefix it with the right module. Lexical. Yeah, look. So this is, yeah. Let's just parse the original, which was that organizations. Oh yeah, we replaced must with should with must because it was simpler. That was simple because that was the only quality we had in the grammar. So here we have a nice looking tree. So this is a glorified foods grammar. It works for small things. It will break down the moment we want to add more things. But if you are, especially if you are learning GF, like it is much more motivational, like it's more motivating to do this and succeed than to start with something that you're like, oh, you need to go and patch these modules that are outside the API. Like, okay, we're not going to build abstract Wikipedia on this abstract syntax. But there are actually like plenty of things that you can build on an abstract syntax this simple. Any kind of fun side projects like or like anything with a restricted domain, and maybe you don't need to say things in a lot of complexity. I mean, this is already like, this is not a non-trivial sentence. Organizations must notify PDPs yes when it's practicable. And when we just analyze them parts and then we put them like this is like a solid template for simple applications. Let's take a 10-minute break now, and then I'm going to show you how to make a glorified let's make this, let's continue with glorified foods, but let's do even more glorified. So we're not going to do the 42 categories of Facebook. We're still in rather like, let's say 10 categories rather than that, but we will separate the lexicon from the syntax. And we do the third layer. So 10-minute break, and that's the plan after the break. Okay, welcome back. Sharing my screen. So I've pushed the foods where lexicon and stuff is merged in the repository, and now I've made a new directory called separate lexicon. Lexicon. And here we have now the comp law, which is now this is a like just a top level thing like that. And from base law, I've refactored it a bit to add some distinctions. So in order to demonstrate the distinction between speech, acts, and propositions, I've made it so that now this grammar can also ask questions. Like that, let's assume that this grammar will be used to make an interviews or something, like maybe we want to say like must the organizations notify PDPC, or even later like must the organizations be notified, but no, let's not do that yet. So then I added a new function, new category for propositions, and I still keep the action and deontic as separate. And now I've split. I'm keeping item and kind as they are, quality as it is, but now I've made 3 whole new categories for different verb-like things. So we used to have notify was a function, but now we want to make them into their own categories. And also may, should, and must used to be functions, but we also want the flexibility to have a modal expression or not have. So maybe we'll change these here. But they are now we're going to split this into syntax and lexicon. So let me make a new abstract for lexicon. Lexicon. What do you call it? Lexicon law. Okay. So let's move these there just to get started, and then we'll change the types. Just get rid of them. This is lexicon now. It's lexicon. These are all lexicon also. And we had the adverbial, which was as soon as practicable. So that goes to lexicon as well. So now this is obviously not a valid GF file, but let's ignore it. Now we have reduced the clutter in this one. So I'm sorry about reusing the name pred for so many things, but like this means it's like this is like predication, and this is like a predicate. I mean, you see, if you look at existing GF grammars, you'll see these kind of naming conventions being used. So just get used to it. So now this is how I make a proposition. Item deontic proposition. So I still want to keep the deontic, but now I want to be a bit more flexible, that I can. My plan is to make modals to be, I want to also allow just to say that the organization notifies PDPC. So then I'll just make this I'll make it a possibility to have 0 modal. This is a completely ad hoc decision I made just right now. So So this one stays as it is. We still want to add the adverbials or the adjuncts to be more general to actions and not the context. Because I feel like it's sort of, it feels like naturally to me that it's like more base level. Because the like the adjuncts, like they are not syntactically necessary, but they definitely have their own semantics. So it can be definitely a different proposition to say that, a different action to say that notify PDPC versus notify PDPC ASAP. I don't know what that means. But yeah, so they make a difference in semantics, and that's why it feels strange to add semantics changing things after we have already applied a modal verb. So that's my reasoning to do that. I will keep these just because like this is like such a this is, I feel, another thing that would make a difference in the way that, let me show you an example. This is from one of the papers. This is the best practices. Treating predicates as functions makes certain combinations impossible. Like you can't modify with a predicate if old is just it's just a predicate. You can't coordinate, you can't form questions. So this is the reason why we split the verbs or predicates, VPs, that they will be like this. So this is like the solution to that problem. You can read this more carefully. I'm just like showing you that the explanation is more detail here. But like I feel that we really don't need to, like we don't really need to keep the kind and its quantifier as separate. So I will keep this as a function instead of having this plural indefinite definite to be like just functions. Sorry, to be like not functions but just values. Let's make the naming scheme a bit more consistent.
So what action the action item quality?
The question was if mod action should be action item quality, and the answer is no, because okay, we haven't made yet an action, so we need to make a syntactic function now. So let me show you. What we will now do is compile. We made these things, and now we want to make them into actions. So compile would take to item notify PDPC, and yeah, don't know what we can just call this use thread 1. Yeah, we could technically, like we could technically, yeah, let's see, let's just use this. Let's use this. Thread 1. I was trying to find a intransitive verb, but I'm thinking like these can be, if we, so why do I choose to make an assessment into like one place predicate instead of making make into a thread 2 and then assessment into kind. So that's like if I want to create all combinations, then I should make that, because it's more generic, because then I can also say notify an assessment and make an organization, make a data breach. But if I want to, like if this is a unit of translation, even though it's syntactically, maybe it is actually a transitive verb with a complement. But in this application grammar, I want to make sure that this is parsed as a single unit. So that's why I make this multi-word expression into a pred 1 instead of make into pred 2 and assessment into a kind. Okay, so whatever, I can make it into sleep or something. So the more like sort of the more kind of ordinary usage is with an intransitive verb, but I can as well choose to make a multi-word expression into pred 1 because this is application grammar. I can do it. And so that's how we make actions. Let's make actions, modify an action, and let's make modals as well. And make deontics. This is like the category is called deontic, and then we added a modal, which is going to be one of these: may, should, must, or none. No modal. So. Yeah, I don't know. The naming is not very like consistent here. So let's just say. So make deontic takes a modal and returns a deontic. Let's call it like this. When you write your own application grammars, you have plenty of time to think of good names. So I think we are done with the changes. So this is now the, oh no, almost. Make position, deontic. And now we come to the, finally to the speech act layer. So qprop s. We actually like we don't even, we might just we could take a shortcut here and like we don't need the two categories for this. So I'm gonna do one more change. I'm just gonna call it a phrase and make it into two different functions instead. So proposition to. So like we're just like skipping one more layer and one more layer with these correlation functions, because I'm just like, instead of qprop making a question and question becoming a phrase, we just say that qprop takes a proposition directed to phrase, and we control it because this makes proposition question phrase, and this other one makes proposition into statement. And now question and statement are not categories, they are just like human readable descriptions. So let's see that our abstract syntax compiles. It does. So then we're gonna add the lexicon. And we have 40 minutes. I think we're gonna get this done, and then that's the last thing that's all we're gonna do today. So that's good. Yeah, you wouldn't make a grammar that solves the whole abstract Wikipedia in 2 hours. So like, let's manage our expectations here. I think we'll be able to finish this. So we ignored the lexicon so far because like that's nothing new. I think we're gonna keep the same link cats, same lints, same constructors. Just yeah, let's just see how the trees will be different with the syntactic functions. Am I muted, by the way? No. That's good. So this is what I always do. I copy the file into after finally concrete. Start it. Base law. And make cat into ling cat on into lin. We put all the link cats here, even the ones for lexical categories, because it's, I think, like, I mean, you could also put them in other modules, but I think it's kind of clear that we have one that is like really the base on the, like, there is no sort of like, this doesn't depend on the lexicon, because the only lexicon depends on this. So all the cats are in one. Phrase, still utterance, or it could be a phrase, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, it might as well be this, but for this, it's sure. This is still a CL. VP. So like, we're not really changing stuff here. We're just like changing the lower leaves here. And the P. Yeah, I'm gonna put this into a VP already, because I think it's gonna be fine, because it might contain a multi-word. We'll see later if like, if at some point I find that like, oh, I really need to, like, if it's a multi-word, I need to separate the verb and the object, then I can always make it discontinuous, like something like this. V and stuff, something like that. Let's start with just the VP. Like, in general, like, making your application grammar link gets discontinuous solves a lot of problems. Okay, but this is certainly a V2, and this is certainly a VP. Yeah. So that's the linkets, and these later. Let's start from these again. This is actually just like it was. I can just copy it. Perfect. Change the names. And I believe mod action is also just the same. Item. Okay, then I have these component use. So this, yeah, use pred one is just do nothing, because the link out of both pred one and action is the VP. So this distinction might be relevant later on. For now, it's compo is so the same thing we had in the previous one. We had, when we had all these action building functions, like we had merged the lexical and the syntactic, we had this. So this is still the right structure, but now we just don't hard code the verb. We say compo pred to item. Instead of having the lexical item here, we just say compo mkvp pred to item. And for the modal action, that's the same principle. We had, it looked like this. again. Section. But now the category of model is a VV, so we just put like this. And thread hasn't changed because that's exactly the same. It's item deontic to, oh, except that it's a proposition now, so just change the type here. Oh yeah, it does change because it's no longer, it's just a CL because we don't merge the layer anymore. So proposition is a CL, and then we have a phrase which now runs. And now we have these two functions, which they are building different speech acts. Qprop. Let's do sprop first because that's simpler. We go here. How do we make an utterance? Yeah, we have this mk cl up. Mk crop. And now for the question, yeah, we can make a QS into an utterance, but how do we get into QS? Well, with this. Does she sleep? So we just apply mkqs before that. So mk up, mkqs drop. Oh yeah, I haven't opened the libraries here. So open syntax eng in. And now it's on the syntax eng, it's needed because we have no lexicon here. This is just syntax. Everything is syntax eng. So this is not extremely interesting. We can't actually build phrases because we don't have any lexicon, but let's just demonstrate that it compiles. If we try to, oh, I have the same, that's the same issue again. Flags start cat. If we try to gr, it says no trace found. That's because despite all this, lots and lots of lines of code, we have no actual lexicon. So now let's take care of the lexicon. This module is independent. This doesn't depend on lexicon, so we don't need to change that. But this was the file where we just, we've just pasted in all the stuff we removed from the base. So now let's make this into a proper thing. Abstract lexicon. So what's wrong if I do this? Okay, well, it's wrong that it doesn't say fun here. GF should be fun. So yes, it's saying constant not found, action, constant not found, deontic, blah, blah, blah. So actually this module depends on the base law. And we do this base law. So this not just depends, it extends base law because it will have access to these categories. Like actually, I mean, it's completely redundant for this to have access to all the rest. So we could just do limited inheritance. We say it only has. Oh yeah, actually no, it doesn't even need to. It definitely doesn't need to do these. We only need to have like these have changed types now. So these are now modals. This is now red 2. This is still item. These are kinds and quality. So we don't need, definitely we don't need action. But we do need, like if we just don't do anything, this works. But also if we want to do the restricted, then we can only take red 1, red 2, kind, item quality model. If we want to make it explicit that we're only constructing lexical categories, so we can do this, but it's not it's optional. So should, must, may, and the new addition no modal, which I want to add. Then we have notify. Predicates, I can say they are predicates. Notify, and we had this multi-word expression somewhere as an example. Make assessment. Yeah, just to show that we can do this. It's a multi-word expression. Items, lines, and qualities. So now we do GF complo, because the complo in this directory, that's the top level grammar. It has both. So now we do this. Oh, we actually need to put the flex target here as well. Oh, yeah, this is what we need to do. Yeah, so now we can do trees, but since none of the lexicon has no linearizations yet, so we're not done yet. But like now we can make some phrases, and we can compare how the trees look compared to the very simple grammar that we just had. So this is telling me there's going to be a statement. The harm must notify PDPC. Just gonna save this in a different file, and then I'm gonna go back to the no lexicon. Do GF law again and do the same. No, it's called comment. Yeah, so like this is like we didn't change what we can express, but we changed how the trees look like. Oh, I mean, okay, we did because we added a question, but otherwise. So like this one has all these nodes don't exist here. Like every node has some kind of lexically inspired thing. May, notify, pull, organization. Like this, the lexical content of this is like the plural. But like there is no lexical content for complement. There is no lexical content for this, because the lexical content here comes from may and notify. But like these are just empty nodes. So it makes the trees look a bit uglier, but it is necessary for flexibility. It's like here we're making a phrase, like if we want to make a question, it's still going to be just must the organization notify them. But if say we want to make a WH question instead, who must notify the PDPC? So then we're kind of in trouble if we have locked ourselves in into this stage where like this notify. Oh yeah, okay, sorry, it's rather like okay, so rather like whom does the organization need to notify? And if we do that, then we're kind of like, if we lock ourselves in here, that's not scalable. So let's make a concrete syntax. Or any questions, anyone on Zoom or live? Yeah, I guess like the design work is done here. Like, yeah, I'm gonna add the lexicon just so like it's more for like a drilling how to use GF. Then we get some. Or actually, should I add the WH questions? Maybe that's more interesting. Do you have preferences? What should we do for the last 20 minutes?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay, yes.
Some extension, like
Mm.
conjugation.
I mean, conjugation, what do you mean? Like conjunctions or?
Yeah, sorry, like must notify the PDPC and something or something. And
yeah, we can. Okay, yeah, if we want to add,
expand
yeah, okay, we can add conjunctions. That's
and then we get
perfectly
reuse
fine.
conjunction.
We can add it here. So if you want to say notify the PDPC and the organization, so then we can put it under here. So conj item. And put it here.
Inform the victim.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure, yeah.
The victim.
Mm.
Yes, so the question is really interesting because you say you must notify this and that, the commission and legal, for example. But you can also actually add on the level
Okay.
of propositions.
Okay, let's do the conjunctions then. But I think that's going to be simpler. So for that, I'm going to actually do the lexicon, so it's more interesting. I've learned during this week that I should not attempt too difficult things on camera. So CP lexicon law. Okay. Just let me fill this super quick. I'm also going to just ignore. I'm not going to do all the invitation because I just want this to be quick. Notify. Oh, actually, I think there's, yeah, okay. It's gonna be in this irregular module, so because like make, made, it's not. It's okay. So if I do this, then it will say I made an error. So So this will be make an assessment. Okay. Just copy the very long thing. As soon as practicable. So now I can do control. Oh, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't make a concrete for the top module. So CP control. This would be a wish list for this VS Code plugin to a command that you can copy the abstract file into a concrete file, so you don't need to write this by hand like every time. Base law, eng, lexical law, eng. Must an organization and the organization make an assessment? Question mark. Oh yeah, by the way, if you want to see, if we actually want to change this so that it has text, we can totally do that. Let's do the base law here. Now there is this category called text. And then we can do this. Punct. Question mark punct. Order again. So now we have must PDPC and organizations notify PDPC. Organizations must notify PDPC. Yeah. Okay, so the question was, how can we add conjunctions on separate levels, different levels? Okay, so we do it. Open. So now this is a conj item. We can also make a conj phrase. So okay, that's that was a bit of now that we made it into a text. Would we like to make it so that we can only, like, do we want to say put only two questions together and only two statements together, maybe?
So I mean to have a conjunction of must notify the PDPC and must notify the individual.
Okay, so
and of course there's a slight syntactic ambiguity to say must notify the PDPC and the individual.
Yeah. So
because logically that should yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so this is
logically well.
So in this case, like, this is where the conjunction is happening is in this item. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
notify the two things. But if you do, would we then, so, I mean, there is a lot of things where we can insert the conjunction. So PDPC must notify the blah and may not do blah.
Yeah.
And then we can also like, we can even not, so if we want to put two propositions together completely, so PDPC must do X and the organization may not do X. So we,
So each time you would introduce a separate form of conjunction.
yeah, exactly. They would all be different abstract syntax trees. Like they would all be different constructors here, because we have cond item, that is item to item to item. We could make it in like, we can also make it like PDPC must pay taxes and do housework. That's what we can do. So that's the deontic is, it's under the deontic. Actually, I have some a bit more comprehensive toy grammars that I made like a year ago in the SMU CC law repository, that where we had all this kinds of different stuff. But yeah, like all of these are possible. Not all of it through the core RGL, but extensions has more functions that you can put more conjunctions in with almost everything. And if and extensions is always possible to extend. So like if you want to have a conjunction between something and something and it doesn't exist yet, you can fork the GFRGL, add it to the extend module, and then it is there. So.
Okay, but I mean, yeah, it's more or less clear how that would be done. Yeah, so. I think one passes. There's one.
Sorry.
So one passes a sentence like. Somebody must notify the individual and the organization.
Yeah, like this is.
So what would pass, please?
Oh, I mean.
Okay. So well, maybe we can just introduce the second form of conjunction and then see what.
Okay. So we want to make an action conjunction. So like PDPC must notify the organization and pay taxes and make an assessment. Okay, so yeah, let's do that. I do need to change some linkets then, but that's fine. So this kind of has to be.
Yeah. So logically speaking, you have a model logic. And you say, well, must notify and pay taxes.
Yeah.
So the question is whether you. Yeah. Okay. In that case, it's clear that the model operator is not the conjunction. Because otherwise, you would say it must notify the organization and pays taxes.
Yeah, exactly.
And pays
Yeah.
Should the conjunction above the.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's exactly the right answer. That's so okay. Let's make the must notify blah and pay taxes. So action is now, there is a category in the extend module called VPI. So this is like, because the VP doesn't have a conjunction, but in the core RGL, but in the extend we can make it into VPI, and then VPI has conjunction. And then we can put a VV and VPI back together to VP.
So that is what you did last year, or?
No, this is just the RGL. Like this is the RGL.
Okay.
I mean, I have a different. I mean, I have some another application grammar in the SMUCC log repository that has like more stuff. Yeah, let's do this. So this is a good, let's get introduced how to use the extend module, because like it's all very fine and smooth when you can use the RTL API, but then you have some, yeah, you have some structure that doesn't, it's not there, so you use the extend. Syntax eng and extend eng. Oof, it's there. And now we need to change the, yeah, we need to change this as well. So let's just not worry about this super much right now. Now modal action is no longer this. We need to use, sorry, we need to use this.
This is once again, what is VPI?
It's just a, it's like a category that is like you get it from VP, and it's, but it's like it, because the normal VP, it loses all of its, like normal VP can become anything. It can become, if it becomes like a complement of a VP, then it will be in infinitive. If it becomes a predicate, then it will be in any kind of inflection form. But VPI is something that we know will become infinitive, and this allows us to have a conjunction for it. This is just like one of the things that you, so like it's yeah. Yeah. It's kind of this after the fact, like, oh, we had this RTL, it's very complex, it's very elegant design, and then like, but we can't put, we can't say place and runs and jumps, so then extend comes to the rescue. So we have another like extension of the VP, which is, it's a VP, but it has a tense. So then we can say has walked and won't sleep. And then we can make a sentence again, she has walked and won't sleep. And VPI is the same, but for infinitive. So to sleep and to walk. And then when it can, we can put it back together, back with the, to the core RGL, it can become a completely normal VP again. So must sleep and walk. And now we're back in the like, core RGL. And also here, like the VPS is the extension, but then after we apply this function, we're back to the normal S, and everything in the API works for it. So we can swap one function very sneakily there. So the function I need is compl VPI VP. Instead of mkVP, I use this. And what's the problem here? Yes, so I need to also wrap this in mkVPI like this. And now I'm gonna have to introduce the lists. So I need to go to the abstract syntax first. Very slow. Wrong folder. So here, this is how we make a list. And this is where we specify that the minimum size of list is 2, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense to have a list. If the list is 1, we can just use this. It doesn't have, there's no reason for it to be a list. So it has to be at least 2. And this automatically creates 2 functions. They are called, oh yeah, we need to give it also it's now API. Yeah, so now it's saying that.
So you can specify the length, the length of lists. Is that the minimum length? Or
Yeah, the minimum length, yes. So base action. So whenever we write this in the abstract syntax, it generates automatically 2 new functions called base and cons. it's happy. Like we made this. We said that okay, the link out of the action is just a list of VPI, and then well, if we do this, we need to have the base ones. So almost done. We need to have. Now we need to just. Sorry. No. We also need to have the. The question was, how do I know it's a VPI? Because I've been writing GF for 11 years, but like, so like, yeah, like, I mean, if you're doing this yourself, like I would recommend go to Stack Overflow, make a question about GF. Like, I mean, this is a very common question about GF on Stack Overflow. Like, how do I do this? Like, how do I do that? So something like, yeah, this was a good question. Like, I'm trying to generate the sentence, one of my friends using GF library. I failed at finding the right method. And then the answer is like, oh, there is a function for this in the num module, but unfortunately it's not in the RTL API. The function is called countNP, and this is how you use it then. Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, like I encourage you when you find some weird gaps in the RTL, like ask and then someone answers. And then in 11 years you'll no, not in 11 years, like, you know, in 1 year, like in some months, you'll be the one answering. Like, yeah. So conj action, it's action to, oh, no, sorry, list action to action. That's what I meant. Oh yeah, actually, yeah, okay. I accidentally made it more generic because like this conj item is only just 2, so this is even better. So this is much better. Action, list of actions to action. And now we go back to the concrete syntax conj action. We have a thing for it too. I think it's called conj VPI. Yes, exactly. So conj VPI. Let's only have and. Okay, does this compile? No, this doesn't. Okay, what's wrong? Oh, okay, mod action still needs to change. Do we have okay, so someone didn't really think it's through because there is no modify VPI with an adverb. So I mean, I will add it to extend because this is just stupid. Like this should be there, it's trivial. So I'm gonna just comment it out so that we get this working. What's saying? Oh, okay, now it's the lexicon. So let's fix the lexicon because I changed the link outs. So, lexicon so wrap these in the MKVPI, and we need to also import extend eng. Now this should be fine. Okay, so we still have this. PDPC must notify the organization and make an assessment. Yeah, it parses. So we have a conjunction here. So the must modifies both, like the must has both of these in scope. The whole conj action, like everything it's doing here. Yeah. Oh, it's 12 o'clock, so this is probably a good way to stop this. So. Sorry again about all the chaos and the earlier today. Any questions? Everyone's falling asleep, hungry. Yeah, you're still following. Wow. It's like midnight or something. Yeah, if there's no questions, I'm just gonna commit this. Well, first go for lunch, then commit this thing. Write 3 new blog posts about all these ideas and add this adverbial modification function to the extent, because it's not there yet. And yeah, that's my plan for today. And then at 8 p.m. Singapore time, there's gonna be group photo and participant presentations about their summer school project. So yeah, thanks for watching, and let's go for lunch or sleep.